Okay, normal distribution, sampling distribution, and central limit theorem are my today's topic, and they are very important from statistical point of view. And you just be a little bit of attentive, okay, because I'm unable to see you as your videos are in switched off mode. So I hope that you'll be noting down the important points in your copy, and you are listening to me properly. Okay, but I cannot verify it because your videos are switched off, and in online class it's not possible to verify each and every student, otherwise it will kill time. So hoping that you all are very attentive in today's class, and you will remain attentive in today's class, because the topics which I'm going to discuss is very important and will be used as tools in our subsequent chapters of other modules. So I shall begin with the first topic of today's class, which is percentiles of normal random variables. We shall try to understand what do we mean by percentiles of normal random variables. First of all, let us choose a real number alpha which lies between 0 and 1. Okay, let me select the marker, then it will be easy for me to highlight the points. Let alpha be the real number which lies between 0 and 1. Okay, and corresponding to alpha, there is another number which is denoted by z alpha, small z suffix alpha. You carefully listen to me what I am saying, all of you. I am choosing a real number alpha from the range 0 1, and corresponding to alpha there is another number which is called z alpha. Question is z alpha positive or is it negative? I do not know. I'm not going to declare that, because the meaning of z alpha must become clear to all of us. Okay, then automatically we'll understand whether z alpha has to be positive or negative or not. For the time being, you just keep in mind that z alpha is a number. What sort of number is z alpha? See, I have written an equation below which says that if capital Z is the random variable, then probability that capital Z takes values larger than small z alpha is equal to alpha. So therefore, this equation says that alpha is nothing but a probability, and z alpha is a number. Capital Z has some specific value which is called z alpha, and capital Z alpha will take values greater than small z alpha. Its probability is given by alpha. So I have shown these below in the diagram. You draw the diagram which is being shown, you just draw it in your copy. You see I have drawn a normal curve, and the origin is at z equal to 0 because I am dealing with standard normal variable. The left hand side of the origin is negative and the right hand side is positive. So I am treating my z alpha as a positive quantity for the sake of our calculation or for the sake of our understanding. It doesn't mean that z alpha cannot be negative. Z alpha is any number lying between minus infinity and plus infinity on this horizontal axis. So z alpha can lie here or z alpha can lie here. Okay, for the sake of our calculation, I am taking z alpha on the positive side, because you always feel comfortable in dealing with positive symbols. Okay, and alpha is the probability which gives you the area of this region. I have arrow marked that. The area of this region is called alpha. Okay, or you can say the probability that capital Z random variable will be having values greater than Z alpha is alpha. Or you can say the area is Z alpha. Sorry, area is alpha, means if you have the probability density function and if you integrate from Z alpha to infinity, the area will come out to be alpha. So this equation signifies this diagram, or the diagram signifies this equation. Okay, so I hope you have understood this point. Now, for the sake of our calculation and for the sake of our understanding, let us choose a specific real number which lies between 0 and 1. The real number is denoted by 0.025. That is my real number. The question now becomes, if probability capital Z, probability that capital Z greater than Z alpha has the probability 0.025. Alpha is my 0.025. So if the probability is 0.025, then what is the value of Z alpha? What should be the value of Z alpha? That is the question. So this is kind of inverse problem. You see, this problem is kind of inverse problem. Here, previously what happened, this number was given to us, okay, but we were supposed to find the probabilities from using the normal distribution chart, but here the probabilities are now given. We are supposed to find the number. So from that perspective, this problem is inverse problem. Try to look at this particular structure or equation, you will understand what I meant to say. Now go to the right hand side part. We know that probability of Z greater than Z alpha is actually calculated in the following way. Probability of Z less than Z alpha is nothing but 1 minus probability of Z greater than Z alpha, because probability of the complementary event is equal to the 1 minus probability of the event. Okay, so we have all these information in front of us, but my objective is to find, if the probability is given, how to find the number. Previously the number was given, our job was to find the probability. Now my job has become the reverse. Probability is given, how to calculate the number. Now, since probability of Z greater than Z alpha is equal to 0.025, by this equation we can say that probability of Z less than Z alpha will be 1 minus 0.025, which will be 0.975. Okay, look at this normal table. I have just selected the relevant portion from the table which will be required. I am not showing you the entire table. I am showing you the row corresponding to 1.9, and I am showing you all the columns starting from 0.00 till 0.09. Now, since we have got the equation, probability of Z less than Z alpha is equal to 0.975. Try to recall what was my equation, what was my standardized normal table. My standardized normal table, which I taught you in the last class, signifies probability of Z less than small x. Now in place of small x, we have Z alpha, okay? And probability of Z less than Z alpha has come out to be 0.975. So from the entire normal distribution chart, you try to identify a number, a probability, which is either same as the given probability or approximately equal to that. But fortunately, we have got the value 0.9750, which is exactly similar to the probability which I have obtained by calculating probability of Z less than Z alpha. Okay, sometimes it may not so happen. Sometimes you may get some value. Suppose for I might have got the value like 0.9749. Okay, so 0.9749 is approximately similar to 0.975. So we could consider it. But we are fortunate enough here that we have got the exact value. Or you can say that, sir, you are manipulative. You have chosen the problem in such a way so that we shouldn't face this kind of trouble in the beginning. So that is true in another sense. So 0.9750 is actually appearing in the standard normal chart corresponding to the value 1.9, the row 1.9, and corresponding to the column 0.06. So actually 0.9750 is the value which corresponds to the Z alpha, which is equal to 1.9 plus 0.06, that is 1.96. So if probability of Z less than Z alpha is 0.975, then my Z alpha will become 1.96. What is my alpha? My alpha is 0.025. So we are writing here Z 0.025 is 1.96. Okay. What does it mean? It means that 2.5% of the time a standard normal random variable will exceed 1.96. Okay, why? Because since we have got all the values, like alpha is given and we have calculated Z alpha, so from the initial equation we have ultimately obtained this. What was my equation? Probability of Z greater than Z alpha is equal to alpha. Now in place of Z alpha, we have got 1.96. In place of alpha, we have got 0.025. Not haven't got it, we assumed it. So my equation thus becomes probability of Z greater than 1.96 equal to 0.025. And therefore we can say that 2.5% of the time the standard normal random variable is exceeding the value 1.96. Now see the reverse one. Since probability of Z greater than 1.96 is equal to 0.025, so probability of Z less than 1.96 is 1 minus this, and that is 0.9750. You already know it very well. What does it mean? It means that 97.5% of the time a standard normal random variable will be less than 1.96. So these mathematical equations are being expressed in the following by the following sentences. Here we have 2.5% probability that Z will be greater than 1.96, and here we have 97.5% chance that Z will be less than 1.96. So we have got thus two probabilities. Now what are these probabilities? I have named the probabilities, these equations, as 1 and 2. From equation 2 is important for my today's class. Equation 2 represents that 1.96. In equation 2 we have got two numbers. We have two numbers. One is 0.975, which has been calculated, and 1.96, which has been obtained from the table. So 1.96, this number, this Z alpha, is actually known as 97.5 percentile. I have highlighted this portion. You see, I am taking the lesser than symbol equation, not the greater than symbol equation. 1.96 is not known as 2.5 percentile. Okay, I am taking this equation. 1.96 is known as 97.5 percentile of the standard normal distribution. Okay, so that is called the percentile of the normal distribution. It has a general definition also. So according to the definition, we can say that since we have got probability of Z greater than Z alpha is alpha, and probability of Z less than Z alpha is 1 minus alpha. Okay, so I will consider this equation. I have green marked it, okay, so that you can correlate. So I can say this value Z alpha is 100 into 1 minus alpha percentile of the standard normal distribution. 100 into 1 minus alpha percentile of the standard normal distribution. So in your copies, you can note down this equation, both the equations you note down, and you write the definition. That was the first topic of my today's class. What do we mean by percentile of normal distribution? And right now I'm not going to show you any example on percentiles, because that examples will be discussed again and again in our module 5, hypothesis testing. Okay, so this thing is going to come further. Today my objective is to introduce two new important tools of statistics which will be used in our later classes, and they are very important also. So we have to understand what do we mean by percentile. People often thinks that percentage and percentile, these two words are same, but students, they are not same. Percentage is not equivalent to percentile. Okay, percentage is something, when we do the unitary calculation, we say how much out of 100. That is called percentage. That is something that is different. But percentile is a kind of probability. Percentile is a kind of probability, and you cannot make understand percentile to a layman who doesn't understand probability. He will not understand percentile. Okay, so for percentile, there are no easy way out. You have to make him understand these equations. If he can understand these equations, then only he will understand what do we mean by percentile. But remember, alpha is not called the percentile. Alpha is not the percentile. We are not interested about alpha. We are interested about the reverse, 1 minus alpha. And 1 minus alpha is the probability. Okay, so when we multiply this 1 minus alpha by 100, then we get percentile. So remember, this is very important point, that percentage and percentile are not same. Okay, remember this. So this was my first topic of today's class. Next, I'm going to explain something new, which is called sampling distribution. Now, sampling distribution, when I will start solving this particular, I'll start discussing this topic, you may find it somewhat not related to normal distribution, but I can assure you that the topic, you just concentrate on the topic, and I'm going to stitch maybe today or maybe in the next class the two topics together. Okay, I'm going to stitch the sampling distribution with a normal distribution. Okay, now you keep the concept of percentile aside and now think about the new topic. It is a new topic, and it is, for the time being, it is mutually, this percentile, these two topics are mutually exclusive. Okay, it's a totally new one. Forget about percentile. This is done. Sampling distribution. What is sampling distribution? Statistics, you all know that we are always interested about what? Population and sample. We want to study population with the help of sample. Okay, that is our job in statistics. So the question becomes, if we select a sample from a population, what would be the expectation and variance of the sample mean? Now, if we consider a population and we select a sample, then obviously there will be some sample means and sample variances. Our job is to find what will be the expectation of the sample mean. But you already know that expectation is itself mean. Expectations, another synonym is mean or average. And here I am talking about expectation of sample mean. That means we are going to calculate actually the average of averages. Average of the sample mean. You select several. Suppose, for example, what is the average mark scored by ECA student in quiz test? What is the average mark of ECA B student in quiz test? Now both of them are average. So you take their averages. Average of ECA, average of ECB divided by 2. That is called average of averages. And that is what we are going to calculate with respect to sample. We are going to find the expectation of the sample mean. To make you understand this particular point, I have selected one problem. Okay, because I always love to discuss problems, not theories. We select a sample of size 2. Try to understand the problem very carefully. We select a sample of size 2 from a population whose values are equally likely, okay, to be either 1 or 2. So actually, first of all, sample, I start with the population first, okay. So population has got two values, 1 and 2, which are equally likely, equally probable. So I am choosing a random variable capital X denoting the member of the population, okay. I am choosing capital X denoting the member of the population, and since these values are equally probable, capital X has got two possibilities. One is capital X can take the value 1 or capital X can take the value 2. Since they are equally probable, probability of X equal to 1 is half and probability of X equal to 2 is also half. And remember, this is the population values, not the sample values. Population mean will be calculated by the expectation of capital X. And you know the formula? Summation x px, because these are discrete cases. So 1 into, now you can ask me one question. Normal distribution was continuous, but in this normal distribution topic, you are introducing a discrete values for the random variable. Why is it so? Okay, keep your questions aside. I will definitely clarify these points if today the time permits, or maybe in next class. So expectation of capital X will be 1, the value multiplied by probability plus value multiplied by probability. So 1 into half plus 2 into half. Thus the population mean comes out to be 1.5. Okay. And population variance, first of all, you calculate similarly Ex square. So we get 1 square plus 1 square into its probability plus 2 square into its probability. Now Ex squared will be 2.5. And similarly, Vx will be Ex square minus Ex whole square, which will be 0.25. So we have got both population mean and population variance. We shall now concentrate on the sample mean and sample variance. Now, capital X1 and capital X2 are two different random variables. Okay, they are also random variables, and their arithmetic mean is denoted by capital X bar. And we are interested in finding the expectation of this X bar. I'm interested in finding the expectation of the sample mean. But don't think that the capital X1 and capital X2 are points. They are themselves the random variables, because you are going to calculate the mean of means. Okay, so this is not a misprinting mistake. These are capital X's, since they are random variables. So capital X1 and capital X2, these two random variables will take values from the population in the following manner. Since the sample is of size 2, capital X1 can take the value 1 and capital X2 will take the value 1. This is one pair which will be the values for X1 and X2. Okay, or capital X1 can take 1 and capital X2 can take 2. That is another pair. Or this pair is there, 2 and 1, and both are taking the values 2. So these 4 pairs are the possible values of the sample. And therefore, since each sample points contains 2 numbers, 2 elements, therefore it was mentioned that the sample is of size 2. Sample is of size 2, that doesn't mean in this respect that there will be only 2 elements in this set, because I am not considering elements at all. I am considering the random variables, and each random variable, the pair of the random variables, will can have 4 possible pairs, each pair having size 2. Okay, so that was actually mentioned in the particular condition of the given discussion. Now, since the population values are equally probable, sample values are also equally probable. So each pair will be having probability 1 by 4. So I have mentioned here. And remember one thing, capital X1 and capital X2, you are choosing the sample independent of one another. If nothing is mentioned, okay, suppose I say like this, there are 2 baskets. Okay, you choose a ball from the basket, put it on the second, that becomes non-independent. But if I say randomly choose from any basket, this is independent choice. Okay, so capital X1 and capital X2 are independent random variables, remember. And each pair will be having probabilities 1 by 4. Okay. Now let us calculate the mean, arithmetic mean. Now for the first pair, capital X bar will be having value 1. For the second pair, it will be having value 1.5. For the third pair, it will be having value 1.5. And for the last pair, it will be having value 2. I'm not explaining because it is easy to calculate. So how many values capital X bar has got? Capital X bar has got 3 distinct values. Capital X bar is also a random variable. Okay, arithmetic mean of 2 random variable is also a random variable. How many distinct values are there? 1, 1.5 and 2. 3 distinct values are there. Okay, we have got subset of set of real numbers. Fine. Now, probability of X bar equals to 1. When X bar takes the value 1, its probability is how much? 1 by 4. Okay, when X bar takes value 1.5, it means there are 2 possibilities, 1, 2 and 2, 1. So in that case, the probability will be 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4, that is half. And when X bar takes value 2, then probability is 1 by 4. So we have got a PMF of the random variable capital X bar, a probability distribution for the random variable capital X bar. Now we can easily calculate the expectation of X bar. Expectation of X bar will be calculated by the previous way. We can multiply the probability by its value. We can multiply 1 by 4 by 1. So we are getting expectation of X bar as 1 into 1 by 4 plus 1.5 into half plus 2 into 1 by 4 is equal to, which is equal to 1.5. Expectation of X bar square will be similarly calculated as 1 square into 1 by 4 plus 1.5 square into half plus 2 square into 1 by 4 is equal to 2.375. And variance of X bar has been calculated as E of X bar square minus EX bar whole square 2.375 minus 1.5 whole square, which is 0.125. So we have calculated EX bar 1.5 and VX bar 0.125. Now that was our job. What was our question? Our question was to calculate, if we draw sample from the population, what will be the expectation and variance of the sample mean. So we have calculated the expectation and variance of the sample mean, which came out to be 1.5 and 0.125. Now see what happens. E of x bar is calculated as 1.5, but if you can recall my population mean, which is represented by ex, that was also 1.5, and your ex bar is also 1.5. What was my vx? Note it down. My vx is 0.25. Okay, let's see what has become of Vx bar. So you see Vx bar has become 0.125, and which is nothing but the half of 0.25. 2 is what? The sample size. And what is 0.25? 0.25 is the Vx. So we can represent Vx bar as Vx by 2. Okay, so what have we observed from this particular uh, uh, example? I have noted this down in terms of a theorem. The theorem says, if capital X is the random variable associated with population and Ex or mu is the population mean, while Vx or sigma square be the population variance, then expectation of X bar will be mu and V of X bar will be sigma square by n, where n is the sample size. Okay, size of the sample drawn from the population. A very important result. This is called the sampling distribution. This distribution, if capital X bar is known as sampling distribution, if expectation of X bar is exactly equal to the population mean and variance of X bar is 1 by n times the variance of the population. Random variable associated to the population. Okay, so and what is n here? N is actually the sample size. Now here I have written n equals to 2. Remember, this doesn't mean that capital X equal to 1 and capital X equal to 2. That is not the reason for which I have written 2 here. I have written 2 here because each pair of sample contain 2 elements. 1 1, 2 elements. 1 2, 2 elements. 2 1, 2 elements. 2 2, 2 elements. Okay, that's why I have written 2. If we consider capital X1 equal to 1 and capital X equal to 1 and capital X equal to 2, that's why it is 2. It is wrong because n is not population size, n is the sample size. Okay, so just like binomial distribution and Poisson distribution, this is another distribution. Okay, sampling distribution. Sampling distribution is a kind of distribution where random variable has got the mean which is exactly equal to the population mean and variance which is exactly equal to the 1 by n times 1 by sample size times the variance of the population. Very important result. And now see what comes. I have defined the central limit theorem. You will be amazed to see what is happening here. See, now central limit theorem says that it is not directly connected to the sampling distribution, but the result is similar. I have written these two results because of some reason I'm going to explain you. Central limit theorem says that if capital X1, capital X2, capital Xn be the sample from a population having mean, acha, capital X1, capital X2, capital Xn, all of these are random variables and they constitute the sample. You probably have understood from our above problem. Now, each of these random variable has its own mean. So here I have assumed that the capital X1 has got the expectation mu, capital X2 has got the expectation mu, and capital Xn has got the expectation mu. Capital X1 has got the variance sigma square, capital X2 has got the variance sigma square, capital Xn has got the variance sigma square. Okay, now if we keep on increasing the n, the sample size, if for large n, the random variable, that is the sum total of these random variables, will approximately have a normal distribution with mean, whose mean will be expectation of x1 plus x2 plus xn. And you know expectation of x plus y equal to expectation of x plus expectation of y. So expectation of x1 plus x2 plus xn will be expectation of sum of their individual expectations. And that will be equal to n into mu. Okay, so expectation of x1 plus x2 plus xn will be n into mu. Variance of x1 plus x2 plus xn will be x1, x2, xn. These are independent. So variance of x1 plus x2 plus xn will be variance of x1 plus variance of x2 plus variance of xn. Each variance is equal to sigma square. So variance of x1 plus variance of x2 plus variance of xn will be n into sigma square. And standard deviation of x1 plus x2 plus xn will similarly be equal to how much? Root over variance. That is sigma root over n, sigma under square root sign n, sigma root n. So you see, if we talk about sampling distribution, then expectation of x bar becomes mu. But if we talk about central limit theorem, expectation of these sums will be n into mu. If we talk about sampling distribution, the variance will be sigma square by n. If we talk about the variance of this sum, the variance will be n multiplied by sigma square. Here sigma square is being divided by n. Here sigma square is being multiplied by n. So these two things are two different things. Okay. Sampling distribution is also connected to normal distribution in some way or other. We'll understand. When we'll be solving the problems of on the basis of these distributions, sampling distribution and central limit theorem, you will understand. But what I'm supposed to say here, today in today's class, it seems to you as if the sir has shown you three distinct items. Sir, I started with the percentile. Okay, I explained what percentile is. I showed that percentile and percentages are not same. Then I explained what is called sampling distribution. So I defined a very important theorem which says that that if we choose a sample of some size, then sampling distribution will be having kind of random variable whose expectation will be same as the population mean, and whose variance will be the 1 by sample size times the variance of the population. Okay, and I have also defined another kind of random set of random variables which is defined by central limit theorem, and I have explained what happens if we increase the size of n. We keep on increase the size of the sample. Okay, then as many times as we can increase the samples, okay, and we take their sums, the distribution tends to follow normal distribution. Okay, so there is very important result which I didn't tell you earlier, but this result you must keep in mind, that you learned about binomial distribution. Okay, so binomial distribution, we have number of experiment. Number of experiment can be taken to be equivalent to sample size. So we have number of experiments n and probability of success p. Now if n tends to infinity, if the number of experiment tends to infinity, and we have significant size of the probability of success is not very poor like Poisson, then binomial distribution tends to follow normal distribution. It is a condition. Not only this, for large sample size, almost every distribution which is existing in the world will tend to follow normal distributions. This is a very amazing theorem, which is actually the outcome of this central limit theorem. Central limit theorem is the mother theorem of statistics. It makes us powerful. It says there, whatever field you are working with, whatever distribution you are taking with, okay, now whenever you will increase your size, sample size, almost all the distributions will tend to follow normal distributions. Always remember this result. Very, 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 very powerful result, this central limit theorem. Almost every distribution of real world will tend to follow normal distribution. In next class, we'll be solving some problems on the based upon this central limit theorem and this. I will give you some problems. I will explain some problems, and I will talk why in that problem, in problem 1, this is required, and why in problem 2 that is required. When to choose this as a tool, when to choose that as a tool. Okay, so I have written these two expressions simultaneously together, one after another, so that you shouldn't become confused. Okay, so in a problem which requires the knowledge of central limit theorem, you shouldn't write sigma by root n. Okay, but if a problem is there where uh, it's a problem of sampling distribution, you shouldn't write sigma into root n. Then sometimes sigma is getting divided by root n, sometimes sigma is getting multiplied by root n. So there is a huge change in these two. Okay, so you have to keep this in mind. My time is almost running out. I will conclude my today's class here. I don't have to join again, and I've saved your chat. And see, I have tabulated all your marks of quiz test. Okay, and I'm actually preparing the chart. I will post the chart, your scores of quiz test in the Google Classroom. And I will try to upload yesterday's video and today's video, because yesterday's video could not be uploaded because of the network trouble. So I couldn't send you the link. So students, you practice problems at home. I hope that you are practicing, because you have got very good marks in statistics. Okay, your performance in quiz test is very satisfactory. Okay, so please, okay, keep on trying, keep practicing, and I shall be always there to help you when needed. Okay, so bye for tomorrow. See you on Monday. I'll send you the link. Okay, tata.